Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is June 7th, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened here yesterday in the market. We were kind of expecting a pullback, or at least we had some clues from the new all-time high yesterday that a pullback made sense. So that's kind of the bias we had as we came into the open. Let's take a look at what happened here. As you can see, right out of the open, they did hold the holy orange power level here and or the previous daily close. Take your choice. It's just a tick apart. And you could have actually bought and maybe even bought VWAP and got yourself a 5, 6, 7, 8 point push. But as you can see, very short-lived there, and that was now a new all-time high in the market yesterday, and then we started the push lower. So out of the open, we got a retest of the all-time high, pushed through by a couple ticks, and then the bearish move that we were kind of expecting, given the signals that we had from the all-time high, ended up happening, and we just got a really nice sell-off from there. Obviously, it wasn't just a straight line down. They did kind of chop around for a little bit. I think inside of this chop, the interesting thing to note here is that the Hopel and the previous daily close were pretty incredible support inside of all this chop, right? But for once this kind of ironed out and we started to get the move in the direction, and you could even kind of started to see we were pushing, and then we got a slightly lower low, lower highs. Everything was starting to kind of go in our direction. There's a bit of a crossover, and then we start to hold the back end of the 200, and then you get your short right off the back end of the Hopel there, and beautiful push lower. As you can see, the first test of the 200 didn't really lead to much, and if you were trying a short down there, especially with a beautiful divergence, peak above and fell through the 200, you should have understood that if price couldn't hold below the FMA, it's probably going to just continue to come higher or retest the new high that it made, or the lower high that it made over here. And so as you can see, didn't quite make it below the FMA here. You might have gotten a point or two out of it, and then it came right back. Got a little bit of a kiss of the VWAP there, not quite to the tick. And then at the end of the day, just kind of threw a curveball in there and found support down here around 53.45. It wasn't necessarily an easy trading day in my opinion. It was really hard, especially for the first hour and a half of the open. It was just chopping around. And I did warn you guys that tomorrow, meaning today, so yesterday I warned you guys that coming into the open today, we were going to have a big news drop with the NFP, and more than likely that would lead to a little bit more of a bigger move. So the expectation was for a little bit of chop yesterday. We did get the push in the direction that we expected and finally got to a new low for the day here, but then they came right back up. Right, so at the end of the day, they came right up into the mean for the morning, or almost to the mean for the morning there. And then as you can see, a little bit of trouble right off the back end of the Hopel one last time to finish that pullback at the end of the day. So again, not necessarily a super easy day, but still some really, really good low risk opportunities here. And then some sideways action at the end of the day there. So let's go ahead and see what happened here in the overnight. And just a couple minutes ago, man, look at all this volatility just in the last half hour. We've had all this, just to show you, this was all night for the last, I don't even know how many hours and hours and hours, 6, 7 hours, whatever. And then here's 30 minutes of price action on the tick chart, right? So an huge increase in volatility, or in volume. And we've got, let's take a look at what happened here in the overnight session. Let me get rid of that. Market held the pullback to the VWAP there in the overnight and held the 200 there just after the market opened for the Globex session. Tried to push higher, and there was no Hopel up there at the time. So I don't want you guys to think they pulled back to it. But held the pullback to the 200, held the pullback to VWAP, and then tried to push to even test the all-time high and failed right in front of it. And that's where we get this kiss off the back end of the 200 to kiss off the back, off the back of the VWAP, and then back off the 200, and kind of looked like we were just going to get a push much lower in this overnight session, only to bounce right off 50% of the previous day here, just about an hour or two before this NFP news drop. It started to come back up and look like we were going to get a push to retest the all-time high, and sure enough, the news dropped here, and they peaked up, came up to 53.80, created a new all-time high on the S&P. And again, this is that NFP news drop, and now a huge pullback that we're currently in. And I did put up a new level here yesterday, or a day before that, 53.39. What do you know? We get this, 53.8. We get a 40-point pullback, and they come right to our level and kiss it to the tick. And this was in the pre-market just a couple minutes ago. You could have bought that with zero risk and actually got this bounce of over 10 points so far. So pretty sexy little hold there, and they even held off the previous daily low. So they tried to hold the previous daily low, only got about 3-4, well, I guess you did get a 5-6 point bounce out of it if you tried it, and then they stair stepped down to the next one, bounced to the tick in this instance, and now here we are continuing to travel lower here as we get closer to the open, or at least it looked like that. And now they are finding some support, bouncing right off this roadmap level and this roadmap level and this roadmap level, starting what looks to be a stair step back up at the moment. Although we are coming right into VWAP right now, so that is not, this is a very important line in the sand here for our analysis. So let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and see